Good morning and welcome to NYNJPA Weather, your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm meteorologist Stephen DiMartino. Well, we have a lot to talk about this morning for the Northern Mid-Atlantic as the weather pattern is going to get very active for much of the eastern United States, but especially for the Northeast, Northern Mid-Atlantic, and the Great Lakes. This morning we have a strong disturbance that is currently over the Great Lakes that will move towards the Northern Mid-Atlantic this evening. That's going to produce scattered showers for much of the Philadelphia and New York City metropolitan area, probably like late evening into the overnight hours of tomorrow morning. Now, this isn't a heavy rain event, but it will force that stationary front that is currently draped over the Hudson Valley to drop south to the south of New Jersey. And that is going to set up a storm for later on in the week. Let's take a look at the water vapor satellite picture. Now, there are several features I want to point out. First, the disturbance number one is the disturbance that is going to race through the Great Lakes and into the Northern Mid-Atlantic. But notice the jet stream configuration. The yellow is the polar jet stream and the green is the subtropical jet stream. And notice that in the polar jet stream, we have a strong upper level low that is basically sitting over eastern Canada. Why is that important? Well, because of the way that the jet streams are converging over New England, it's supporting high pressure to the north. That's going to be a very important feature later on in the week. Disturbance number two is moving towards the east coast as well. That's going to minor out because it's moving into a convergent flow. Storms like divergence, basically winds moving at faster speed and allowing air to rise into the upper levels. And when you have converging upper level winds, that tends to weaken a disturbance. So this disturbance that is rather powerful in the plains will weaken, minor out, produce a few scattered showers throughout the week, but it will become entrained in disturbance number three. That disturbance means trouble for much of the Northern Mid-Atlantic. Let's take a look at the forecast maps. This is Thursday afternoon. Pay attention to one very important feature. No, it's not the disturbances, it's the ridge that's over the west. When you have a ridge axis basically centered around Montana, that is a huge calling card for a major East Coast storm. The reason why is because if you have a ridge axis over Montana and the Central Rockies, you tend to have a trough axis just to the west of the East Coast, which allows for a storm to develop along the East Coast and track towards the benchmark. Basically, it's the way to figure out where your wavelength is and where your trough axis and ridge axis will set up, thereby allowing a storm to move close enough to the coast to impact the region. So when you see this on a forecast map, it's a huge warning sign. And we're seeing that for Thursday afternoon, not only on this GFS model run, but for several days on the European guidance, the Canadian guidance. Basically, all the models are starting to point to this one feature, and that is a major storm. Now, disturbance number three that I showed in the water vapor satellite picture will be diving down through the Ohio Valley. Notice we start getting a trough around the Canadian Maritimes. We start getting a weak negative NAO pattern. Notice I said weak. You don't want strong negative NAO patterns. You want weak ones because then you allow the storm to move up the coast and move slowly, but it doesn't suppress the storm out into the Atlantic. Everything is always interacting with each other, each system. So if you have one system that's more dominant than anything else, then you get suppression. In this case, all the features in the atmosphere are all working together and all combining to support a major storm on the East Coast. And where do we end up on Friday afternoon? Let's take a look. By Friday afternoon, we have our upper level low that is sitting off the East Coast. We have a strong storm that is developing off the New Jersey coast. Notice we have our trough over the Canadian Maritimes, a little ridge building into Greenland. That slows the entire pattern down. However, this is a La Nina pattern, and that means that we're still going to be in a rather progressive flow. So this storm will develop, it will intensify, it will move slowly at first, but eventually it will get kicked out on Friday night. When we look at the surface map, we can see that we have a very strong area low pressure that is sitting to the southeast of Long Island by Friday afternoon. Remember what I said about the convergent flow with the high pressure system to the north? Well, there's our high pressure system over southeast Canada, and that's important because it's going to enhance the pressure gradient, which means you have a better chance for strong sustained winds. And by the way, if this was a winter storm, well, it could actually force a northeast wind that could drive cold air down the coastal plain. But don't worry about that right now, yet. So the important things to keep an eye on here with this storm is that we have a strong pressure gradient, which means we're going to have strong sustained winds, especially along the coast. I'm looking anywhere from 15 to 30 miles per hour, sustained with higher gusts possible. Most likely coastal flooding, minor to moderate, depending on your location. We're also going to have to keep an eye on the timing of this storm as far as it interacts with high and low tides, which we really can't set up right at this time. And of course, the other threat is very heavy rain, anywhere from 1 to 2 inches. I think the heaviest rain and the worst conditions will remain to the east of the Delaware River and over southern New England. However, those in northeastern Pennsylvania and basically much of eastern Pennsylvania are still under the threat of moderate to heavy rain. We'll have to keep an eye on the exact track of this storm. But it looks like we're moving into a very active pattern for the end of October, just as many of my premium members would know when I discussed the October pattern about 30-40 days ago. So we're moving into a very active pattern. We're starting to set up into our winter pattern, and this is starting to get really interesting. I will have the new winter forecast out in about another week or so, and when that comes out, I'll let everyone know, and it's going to be a really good in-depth discussion on not only what to expect for this winter, but what is going to be driving this winter pattern. Thank you for using NYNJPA weather as your weather source for the Northern Mid-Atlantic. I'm meteorologist Stephen DiMartino. Have an excellent day.